So for the latest on the ongoing saga between James Harden and the Philadelphia 76ers, I'd like to welcome in our senior NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, did Harden practice with the 76ers today?
Malika, James Harden was not in attendance for the Sixers practice today in Fort Collins at Colorado State University. But I'm told there's an expectation that James Harden could arrive in Colorado as soon as today, and that he could join the team in training camp again, possibly as soon as tomorrow. But James Harden's arrival at training camp after he skipped media day in Camden yesterday, after he missed the opening day of camp today, that doesn't necessarily signal that James Harden will be fully participating in practice or will practice at all, or how soon he might. And that's going to be the next question for Harden and the Sixers. So listen, they expect him to practice. They expect him to play. He's under contract this season. But I think James Harden arriving in Colorado to technically join his team, it may be different than just assuming Harden is going to become a full-fledged member of this organization again.
Right, because last time I checked, Woj, there was an outstanding trade request that is still in effect. Where does that stand now?
Well, obviously, James Harden has wanted that trade specifically to the Los Angeles Clippers since he opted in on his deal in late June, that $35 million that he'll be paid this season. The Clippers have been on again, off again, talking with the Sixers for months about a James Harden trade. I'm told they've talked again recently, but there's been no movement. The Sixers are asking for a lot to trade James Harden. They want to get back enough, either a player that could help them now or the assets more likely that they could use to go get that player. And the Clippers are in a situation right now where they can await what happens in Philadelphia, what happens with Harden, let what might become, a very distracting circus-like atmosphere to play out. They're not necessarily motivated in LA to keep upping their offer or up their offer, especially when they know they've made the best offer that's out there for James Harden, and there's really not another active, aggressive suitor for Harden. So this, I don't get the sense that there's any kind of a trade in the short term for James Harden. Remember, nobody plays a regular season game until much later this month.
As you lay it out, Woj, saying that James Harden on his way to Colorado, not necessarily meaning that he's on his way to being a full-time participation in this training camp. And, oh, by the way, there's still a trade request here that there has not been significant movement on. I think circus-like is the perfect description. Adrian Wojnarowski, our senior NBA insider, thank you so very much. It has been a long time since the process began, right, for the Sixers, and even longer time since Philadelphia has even made the conference finals. The 76ers, they have gone 13 straight playoff appearances without making the conference finals. That is the second longest active streak in the NBA behind the Washington Wizards. Your reaction to James Harden on his way now to training camp with all of those caveats that Woj just laid out?
My reaction? My reaction to that the guy's going to show up and maybe not be a member of the team in a full-fledged sense? Here's my reaction. This is inevitable. He has to show up. The only reason he's showing up is because there's a clause in the CBA, a very obscure one, that says if he withholds services for 30 days in the last year of his contract, the Sixers can block him from entering free agency at the end of the season. He was always going to show up. He has to show up. And he was always going to potentially not be, as Woj put it, a full-fledged member of the roster. So showing up to me means nothing until he shows exactly what level of commitment he's going to have to the team. As for the Clippers, look, to me, this is about their 2 first-round draft picks that they can now trade. The 2 picks that have been unlocked finally after they've been in jail from the huge deal that brought them Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. 2028 2028 and 2030. I think the Clippers think they probably need to make a move to truly compete for an NBA championship, which has been the goal the whole time and something they just haven't quite done in this sort of mini era. Those picks, though, they are clutching onto them for dear life because those picks are salvation. Those picks are their path back to some normalcy after having to cobble around Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And I think Woj is right. Why should they just trade them both, boom, unprotected, when they know we might be the only team that's even looking at this guy seriously?
Let's set the Sixers over here or rather the Clippers over here for 1 second, because Zach, as you're going through all of this, the question that's in my mind is, what about the MVP? What about his opinion on this matter? How are you, if you are Joel Embiid, Chiney, looking at this circus as Woj laid out, play out again?
If, in your mind, you are rational and you say the right things, but in your heart, you're doing exactly what Zach just did. Like, this is not fun. And the way I describe this is, as a player, you internalize things. What Joel Embiid did at Media Day was the right thing. He said the right thing. I even wrote it down. We still got to go out there and compete. You can do whatever you want off of the court, but you still got to go out there and put the ball in the hoop. That is a message saying, hey, we still have a job to do. And they believe, Joel and the Sixers, following Joel Embiid, that they can still go out there and compete and beat a lot of teams. But the reality is, this is why I say your mind and your heart is at odds, because your heart, if you're Joel Embiid, is like, okay, now, this is not good. I do not want another wasted season. I am 29 years old. I am the defending MVP, and you put me in this position again, and that's why it gets to the game of desperation. As someone who has had a personal vested interest in all of this, going back to my Houston Rockets fandom, I've seen this play out before. He will show up, and it will be uncomfortable. It will get awkward really quick. But the reality is, it feels like there's no time on Joel's side, even though he's saying the right things publicly. And then the reality also is that market is very different for James, so the process just continues.
And we've seen in the past with James Harden that he is comfortable with the situation getting uncomfortable. And as he sits around and does contractual jujitsu, fulfills what obligations he has to fulfill, he centers himself in the beginning of a new era for the 76ers. And my reaction is, it is so exhausting. Now the whole training camp, you've got everybody answering questions about James Harden.
Yes.
You've got Joel Embiid in a position where he has to walk a careful line. He doesn't want to insult his potential teammate. He wants to make sure people know it's a championship mindset on his team. He also has the back of his organization. He's got to be all these things. How does he focus on being great himself? So where's the urgency in this situation for the 76ers? And I think it all lays with Joel Embiid.
Well, to your point, Roz, those questions are still being asked. In fact, they were asked to Nick Nurse moments ago.
Yeah, well, I do know that he wasn't here today, right? And if he's here, like we've said on everything, we'll get ready to make some adjustments on everything. We'll see what happens, okay?
Today, we just came in practice, so we did that, and if he comes in, that'd be great. I love James, like I said earlier, or 2 days. That's yesterday. Jesus Christ. So that was yesterday. Man, so I'm running on Eastern time, but that'd be great. That'd be great. As a brotherhood, we'll love to see him, and right now we have to focus on practice today, so it was great.
All right, Zach, so this is absolutely changing minute by minute, but if you were to choose, which situation is more likely? James Harden starts the season in a 76ers uniform on the floor, or we see a trade come to fruition? Which one are you going with?
I guess the former, if your definition of on the floor is loose enough to include what Chiney referenced in sort of his dispirited play in Houston and then in Brooklyn when he feels like getting out of a situation, because this feels like it could take a while. That said, it only takes one phone call, but you're putting me on the spot. I'll say he's stuck on the Sixers. He shows up, and then the next step after that is the next mystery we have to see.
Hey, what's up, guys? Jack from Jaggy Sports here. About that time again, let's get quick Woj update. As you guys just saw, James Harden did not attend Media Day. He did not attend the first day of training camp. However, as what he said, the expectation is for James Harden to join them probably tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure. And now people are suspecting that when you say join the 76ers, it's kind of like, how much will he fully be invested in the 76ers right now? And, James Harden clearly wants to go to the LA Clippers. LA Clippers gave an offer to the 76ers for James Harden, and as of right now, that is the best offer that the 76ers got. However, Daryl Morey wants more. Daryl Morey wants more, and rightfully so. Who do the Clippers have that can satisfy the 76ers' demands? Because going into this season, you look what Boston did. You look what Miami did. You kind of want to beat those teams, obviously, right? To get to the conference finals. And, 76ers haven't been there in 10 years consecutive, as you just saw. And so now you have to think to yourself, how the hell am I going to get better with the Clippers trade package? You got to admit, Daryl Morey is right on this one because, their trade package involved, I think it was Terrence Mann, a couple other pieces here and there, Marcus Morris, and that's not gonna do much. That's not gonna push the needle up against the juggernaut of Boston Celtics, up against the juggernaut of the Milwaukee Bucks. That is not gonna cut it. So, speaking from a Philadelphia perspective, like I love Philly. Philly is awesome. Philly, I want them to succeed. So, from Philly's perspective, you want to team up Joel Embiid. Obviously, you got Tyrese Maxey. That kid's gonna be phenomenal one day. But the question is, one day you want an all-star with Joel Embiid, and there's not that much of a trade market for James Harden, and he has not rescinded the trade request. So, it's everybody's saying that James Harden has leverage. I get it, right? Kendrick Perkins. Yeah, I think it was the day before, he said he's got all the leverage in the world because he doesn't care. He's got all the money in the world, so if he gets fined, he gets fined. But at the end of the day, this guy is in a contract season. So if he's in a contract season, teams are going to look at this and be like, why the hell would I, like, picture this July 1st, 2024, 2024. Why the hell would I pay James Harden when he acted like this, when he didn't participate in the 76ers training camp, and God knows what he's going to do in the off season, or like in the beginning of the season and the preseason and whatnot kind of thing. So it's interesting what's going to transpire in the next couple of weeks. I think that he is not going to get traded to the Clippers unless Clippers actually fold and give a bunch of more assets, because you can't expect Joel Embiid to go in and defeat like Boston Celtics. You can't expect him to defeat the Milwaukee Bucks, right? You need more help than that. Tyrese Maxey is good, but he's not that damn good that he can take on Dame Lillard or he can take on Drew Holiday, and you got all those other guys. So this is going to be like going into the season. And again, if James Harden doesn't play, he loses a lot of money. So I feel bad for the Philly fans because they were subjected to this with Ben Simmons, and now they're subjected to this from James Harden. I'm not saying James Harden is fully out, because James Harden has, he has to get paid for the next season. He has to. And to do that, you have to ball out this season and make teams, remember how good of a player you actually are. So he's got to ball out this season. So I'm hoping this thing gets resolved. I'm hoping that, they can come to resolution. Either he gets traded to the Clippers or wherever, or he rescinds his trade, and enough of this circus already, because we've been hearing it since July 1st. I have no idea, right? Because at the end of the day, what happened with Trailblazers and Damian Lillard, they wanted to do it. They wanted to get it over with. But Daryl Morey is a different cat. I don't suspect him to be in any rush whatsoever. Maybe throughout the season, if Philly is terrible and James Harden doesn't play, then he might have to give up James Harden. Or if LA Clippers are terrible, or one of them, God forbid, goes down kind of thing, gets injured, maybe LA Clippers ups their offer. I have no idea what's going to happen. But as of right now, James Harden is actually not in training camp. He's expected to be there tomorrow. Will he be fully invested? I have no freaking idea. Leave a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you guys think about Philly. Is James Harden going to get traded? Is he going to be invested with the 76ers? And another one is, will he sit out for the entire season? Who knows? He loves his money, as we all do. Leave a comment in the comment section.